She wasn't a witch. She was a woman who knew too much. She knew which herbs stopped bleeding, which teas soothed fevers, which roots ended unwanted pregnancies. She knew how to deliver a baby, even in the dark, even when the priest refused to come. And in a world where pain was sacred and death was divine punishment, that made her dangerous. Because knowledge, especially female knowledge, was power, and power was not meant for women. In the medieval village, the midwife was essential, but she was never safe. She worked in shadows, passed her teachings from mouth to mouth, guarded her tools like sacred relics. If a child lived, she was tolerated. If the child died, even by plague, by malnourishment, by pure chance, she was blamed. The church didn't trust her. She wasn't ordained. She wasn't sanctioned. She didn't ask permission. She touched bodies, female bodies, secretly. She handled blood and birth and pain, things the male clergy called unclean, yet feared enough to outlaw. And so, slowly, the narrative changed. She was no longer wise. She was suspicious, then unnatural, then a servant of the devil. Because it was easier to burn a healer than to admit the system feared her. She wasn't hiding until they gave her a reason to. As the church tightened its grip, healing outside its doctrine became rebellion. The midwife didn't study in a monastery. She didn't read Latin. Her knowledge came from grandmothers, from trial and error, from listening, things the clergy considered unreliable and therefore dangerous. So they rewrote the script. She wasn't helping. She was interfering. When a mother died in childbirth, they said she used the wrong prayer. When a baby was stillborn, they whispered she touched it too soon. When a labor was painless, they accused her of sorcery, because pain, they claimed, was Eve's curse, and anyone who dared ease it must be working against God. It didn't stop at whispers. Suddenly, there were laws, mandates that only church-sanctioned physicians could deliver babies, investigations into unauthorized herbs and rituals, proclamations declaring that any woman found practicing folk medicine would be subject to interrogation. The inquisitors came next, not with questions, but with certainty. They already knew what she was. They just needed her to say it. And so, knowledge became evidence. Her tools were instruments of evil. Her remedies were potions. Her experience? Witchcraft. And healing, the act of saving lives, became a crime against heaven. Once accused, there was no escape. She wasn't given a lawyer. She wasn't read her rights. She was dragged into the village square, not as a suspect, but as a spectacle. Mothers averted their eyes. Children stared. The priest recited verses. The men sharpened stakes. She was questioned, but not to be understood, only to be broken. Did you speak to spirits? Did you touch a child without prayer? Did you bleed the womb and not ask a priest first? And no answer was safe. If she denied it, they said the devil was protecting her. If she stayed silent, they called it guilt. If she wept, they claimed it was a curse. Then came the searches. They stripped her, looked for marks, moles, scars, skin tags, anything they could call the devil's kiss. Even the body became evidence. Her flesh turned against her. Her age turned against her. Her knowledge turned against her. By the time she stood trial, the verdict had already been written. Not on paper, in papier. Because the village didn't need her to be guilty. It needed her to be punished, to cleanse the doubt, to make the pain sacred again, to silence the one who had dared make life bearable. And the sentence? Always the same. Ashes. They didn't just kill her, they used her. The burning wasn't about justice, it was about memory. Final lesson, written in smoke. The whole village watched. They always did. That was the point. The women stood still, holding their children tighter. The men said nothing. Some nodded, some flinched. Most just stared. No one moved. No one stopped it. Because if she burned, they were safe. And so the silence grew. The women stopped asking questions, stopped gathering herbs, stopped whispering remedies in the dark. They let the priests deliver the babies, even when they fumbled, even when the mothers bled out, even when the children didn't cry. Better to lose a child than be accused of saving one the wrong way. They burned her body, but what they really wanted was her absence, her legacy, her knowledge, her power passed down through generations, cut off. And it worked. Generations later, the smoke still lingered, in textbooks that ignored her, in medicine that erased her, in cultures that still called wisdom witchcraft when spoken by a woman. Her death wasn't an ending. It was a warning label, stamped on every girl who dared to understand her own body. Not every midwife burned. Some stayed quiet. Some buried their tools. Some hid their knowledge like contraband. They still knew how to ease pain, stop bleeding, bring life into the world, but they used that knowledge in whispers, behind locked doors, with one hand always on the window. They wore crosses, not out of faith, but as protection. They let the priest bless the room before they entered. They kept their eyes down, their cures mild, their tone humble, and still, suspicion hovered like smoke. One slip, one failed birth, one vengeful neighbor. That's all it took to vanish. So they lived in half-light, never teaching too much, never showing too much, passing down fragments instead of formulas. Enough to help, not enough to get caught. But even that wasn't safety, because every time someone screamed "witch," it echoed through every woman who had ever dared understand the body. And over time, the midwife faded, not from lack of need, but from terror. Her knowledge was absorbed into silence, her tools confiscated, outlawed, mocked. Her legacy handed over to men with titles and books, who called themselves the first real doctors, but only after burning the last true ones. She's gone, but the world built from her ashes still stands. The trials ended, the stakes rotted, the laws were rewritten. But the silence she was forced to carry, that survived. Centuries later, the word witch still lingers in the mouth like poison. It's used against women who lead, who question, who speak too boldly, too early, too confidently. The title changes: hysterical, emotional, dangerous, too much. But the judgment remains the same. And the midwife? She became a ghost in history books, a footnote beside superstition. They called her uneducated, primitive, irrational, and replaced her with men in coats who discovered the very things she had known for generations. And even today, some of her knowledge is still missing. Because it was never written. It was whispered. And when they silenced her, they silenced the line of memory itself. The fire didn't just burn her, it burned her students, her sisters, her daughters. It burned possibility. It left a crater where there should have been a lineage. And what replaced her wasn't always better. Just more powerful, more institutional, more male. Hospitals that dismissed women's pain, doctors who didn't listen, systems that taught control, not care. She didn't die because she failed. She died because she healed too well, and that made her dangerous. Because in a world built to control, a woman who understands life is a threat. A woman who eases pain without permission is subversive. A woman who knows what the body needs and trusts herself is revolutionary. So no, she wasn't a witch. But maybe the world would have been better if she had been allowed to be.